What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, PJ3 Sports. I'm your host, Peter Noche. Hope you guys had a good week last week with your wild card picks. This week, I'll be covering UFC 283, and then another video I'll be covering the NFL divisional playoffs. We got a lot more to discuss. Let's get to it.
Money, money, money team. Money, 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 money team.
All right, guys, welcome back. Let's get right into UFC 283 this weekend in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm super excited and pumped for this card. We got in the co-main event, Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno, number 4. These guys have fought 3 times now, and now they're fighting a 4th time. Can't wait to watch this. And then also in the main event, Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world. No one right now is the light heavyweight champion due to the last card in UFC 282, where it ended in a draw between Magomedov Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz. So we're going to have a new champion here in Rio. Very excited. Also to note, Glover Teixeira and Deiveson Figueiredo are from Brazil, so this will be in their hometown, and a lot of their fans are going to be cheering them on. So let's get right into the co-main event. We'll start out with the co-main. So we see that Brandon Moreno has a 2-inch height advantage. He's 5'7", Figueiredo is 5'5", and the reach, Brandon Moreno's got a 2-inch reach advantage. I don't see this being much of an issue for Figueiredo. We usually talk about reaches when it comes to UFC. How much does that play a factor? This won't be much of a factor because these guys have fought already 3 times. So let's get into the matchup. First, starting out with the champion, Deiveson Figueiredo. He possesses that one-punch knockout power that flyweights do not possess. Very technical, very accurate with his strikes. Lands 55%. Also implements body kicks, leg kicks, calf kicks that give his opponents lots of problems. And when he gets you down, he is huge for the division. So he smothers you, puts you in positions that you do not want to be, and is also extremely durable as well. And then as for Brandon Moreno, the challenger, very durable. But with his striking, he uses different tactics to implement in his arsenal. He uses body kicks now. And he just put out Kai Kara-France with 1 body shot in his last fight. He also is very diverse on the ground. Gets you in all sorts of different positions. And he is looking to make a statement here in Rio de Janeiro to get his belt back. So how we got here. So let's go through the first 3 fights. The first fight with Figueiredo and Moreno. Figueiredo landed huge bombs early in the fight. Put Brandon Moreno in all sorts of problems. But as the fight went on, Deiveson Figueiredo got tired. He was gassed. And Brandon Moreno turned up the heat on him, which ended in a draw. But Brandon Moreno showed everyone that he belongs in this flyweight division. And then with the second fight, Brandon Moreno came out and gave Deiveson Figueiredo all sorts of issues. He was very strategic in his stand-up, and he used those stand-up abilities to put Deiveson Figueiredo on his back and eventually synced up the choke, rear naked choke, that got him the undisputed flyweight title. For the third fight, Deiveson Figueiredo was thinking about getting his belt back, so he teamed up with Henry Cejudo. And Deiveson Figueiredo came in with a different strategy this time, using more calf kicks than he did in his entire career. Focused more on the calf kicks, and then the wrestling. And with his striking, he landed 2 powerful shots that made the difference in the fight against Brandon Moreno and got his belt back and a decision win, which makes this a very intriguing and exciting 4th fight. So the keys to victory for both fighters, I'm going to get into it. The first with Deiveson Figueiredo. Number 1 key, he's got to establish those calf kicks. We saw him do it a lot in the 3rd fight. He was very successful in doing that. And also mixing up those takedowns. That will go into his advantage as well. Number 2 is using his right hand and finding that chin of Brandon Moreno. We saw in the last fight where he was able to put down Brandon Moreno with 1 shot. He set it up with his jab. He has to do that in his fight. He is durable, but he also can get tired very easily, and he has to be careful. He has to be methodical in the way he approaches it, take his time, and still controlling the center of that octagon. As for Brandon Moreno, the two key components that he needs to do. Number one is get off to a good start. He's got to be first. He's got to capture that center of the octagon. Both guys need to, but Brandon Moreno especially. He cannot get pushed back with Deiveson Figueiredo. He's got to overwhelm Deiveson Figueiredo with his strikes, with his combinations, which will give him problems and will help him as the fight goes on. That will be huge in his advantage. And number two, definitely implement his wrestling. He had a lot of success against Deiveson Figueiredo in that second fight with his wrestling. Mixing up the strikes, threatening with the takedown, putting Figueiredo on his back, overwhelming him. If he does that, he's got a great chance of getting the belt back. Ultimately, for my prediction for this fight, it's a toss-up for me. I think it's 50-50. Both guys have great chances of winning this fight. I'm going to stay away, and I'm going to take the over in this fight. So I'm going to instead take the over 4.5. It's listed right now on the sports books. I'm going to say this fight goes to decision, which is at most sports books minus 130. So that will be my pick for this fight. So on to the main event. Let's get to it. Glover Teixeira and Jamahal Hill for the UFC light heavyweight title. Let's go into the attributes first for each fighter. So Glover Teixeira, he's 43 years old. Jamahal Hill, 31. 12 years. Glover Teixeira is to Jamahal Hill. Jamahal Hill's got a 2-inch height advantage, and he also has a 3-inch reach advantage, 79 inches. Very, very long reach for this division. So Glover Teixeira is going to have to deal with that, which could be a factor in this fight. Let's break down each fighter. For Glover Teixeira, 43 years of age. He is one of the oldest UFC fighters that has ever competed in the UFC. He has a very, very strong fight IQ. He possesses these boxing fundamentals that are very similar to Mike Tyson. He sets you up with that jab, and he tries to find that overhand right to put you out. But he also possesses very strong wrestling. His wrestling is very excellent. He has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and when he gets a hold of you on the ground, you are in deep trouble. He puts you on your back, he finds that top position, and he mauls on you, puts you on your back, and will sync up that choke to get the finish. With Jamahal Hill, he is a very intelligent striker. He possesses that one-punch knockout power that most guys don't possess. He loves to hit you with that right hook. He sets it up with that jab and he'll land the big overhand right, but he also lands the front right hook, and he can put you out flush with it. We've seen it many times, him doing that to his opponents, but he doesn't have that takedown effectiveness that Glover Teixeira has. He does have good takedown defense, which will be the factor in this fight. Will be very intriguing to watch to see how Jamahal Hill will be able to respond to Glover Teixeira utilizing his takedowns, and if Jamahal Hill can get up and still be the same fighter. So the keys to victory for both fighters, we're going to do 3 of them. First, for Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira, what he's got to do is control the pace. He has a huge speed disadvantage, so he can't wait for Jamahal Hill. He has to push Jamahal Hill back. He's got to be the aggressor in this fight. Number 2, he's got to utilize the wrestling. He's got to push Jamahal Hill back on his heels and threaten him with that takedown. He's a very good chain wrestler, so look for him to lock his hands around when he's looking for that double under and put Jamahal Hill on his back. And number 3, the mix-up attacks. Mixing up the striking to the wrestling. Setting up his takedowns with a feint and putting Jamahal Hill down on the ground, making him overthink it while being very diverse. As for Jamahal Hill, number 1, he's got to keep the fight standing. He has a 3-inch reach advantage. He has to use that. He is a tactician on the feet. Number 2, staying off the fence. He cannot let Glover Teixeira just push him back and allow him to control the center of that octagon. Jamahal Hill needs to establish that positioning, but also staying on the outside, not getting too close to Glover Teixeira, utilizing his kicks. He has very good kicks, and avoid getting in close with Glover Teixeira in those clinch moments, because Glover Teixeira could catch him with something like a right hook, a right uppercut, which could give Jamahal Hill problems. And number 3, the disciplined defense. Jamahal Hill has shown in the past that he likes to keep his chin up. He cannot do that in this fight. If Glover Teixeira finds out that he is doing that, he will capitalize. So Jamahal Hill has to be careful about showing that to Glover Teixeira. Ultimately, for my prediction for this fight, I am going to ride with the underdog in Glover Teixeira. He right now is at plus 120. You might get him for plus 115 or maybe plus 130 at some sports books. But I'm going to take Glover Teixeira. I love the story. I believe he will get the belt back in his home crowd in Brazil, and he will get Jamahal Hill in all sorts of problems. I believe that wrestling is going to be the advantage for Glover Teixeira and the main factor in this fight. So my strategy for this card that I advise you guys to use, it would be the 60-40 rule. So if you got $100, I would advise you to put $60 on Brandon Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo going the distance. The other $40 on Glover Teixeira money line. If you got 50, you could split up 30-20. If you got 25, 15-10. Thank you guys for watching my YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.